Your intellect will base everything on the past. Your intellect will judge. Your intellect will compare. Your intellect will analyze everything, try to make sense out of everything, try to foresee the future even though it cannot. It's very limited. It can only come up with conclusions based on what happened in the past. So if you try to love yourself through this, it's never going to work, because all you're going to be receiving is, remember when you did this, remember when you did that, remember what your parents told you, remember when this happened, remember when this person said you were horrible, remember this, remember this, remember that. That's not it. It's not your higher self. It's not your highest self. Your highest self is who you are on a soul level. Your highest self is the spirit you. That you are disconnected from. Because you're obsessing. You're obsessing with your senses, and you're obsessing with the past. And because you're obsessing with the past, you're trying to foresee the future, which you cannot. And because you can't foresee and predict the future, now you're anxious. So you have depression because you're too focused on the past. You can't get over the past, even though it doesn't exist anymore. And you're anxious about the future. You're anxious because you're worrying about the future. Because, why? You don't want the past to repeat itself. And it will repeat itself because what you're focusing on, you're getting. You don't want it to happen, you don't want it to happen, you don't want it to happen, and what happens? It happens. That's where all your attention goes. And then you don't want it, and you tell yourself, oh, I didn't create that. I didn't manifest the things that I have in my life. I didn't manifest the people. Why would I manifest a narcissist? Why would I manifest bankruptcy? Why would I manifest homelessness? And this is me speaking like it's a bad thing. Sometimes the universe will put us in situations for us to wake up. Because if that wouldn't have happened to you, you would have never been here to remember who you are. If that wouldn't have happened to you, if you didn't go bankrupt, maybe you never would have learned how to budget and manage your money. If you did not have any money, your desire to create something larger for yourself and your family wouldn't have kicked in. If you didn't go through that toxic relationship, your self-love would have never have been birthed, because you were slowly but surely committing suicide to the spiritual side of you, the deeper parts of you. It's the only place where the truth lies. But for that to speak through us, we have to become receivers, recipients. We have to start opening up. And when we start opening up, that means disconnecting, allowing our intellect to be there. Another word for that is our ego, right? But to befriend it and let it be the observer and train it, just like we would train the dog. The dog can be there. The dog is trained. The dog can stare at you eating, but the dog is not going to jump up on the table and eat your food because he's been trained. It has been trained. She's been trained. So your intellect is not a bad thing. It's not a negative thing. It's not something that we're trying to overcome and get rid of. No, we want to train it. We want it to start understanding that it's not going to rule our lives anymore. The decisions that we make, the actions we take are going to be based on feeling. And it's not feeling of guilt. It's not feeling of shame. But deep-seated feeling of, is this true? Is this true? Is this real? Is this true? Is this in my highest good or is it not? Without allowing the mind to kick in, without allowing the intellect to kick in and say, it's been too much idle time. You're quiet for too long. You haven't come up with an answer, so I'm going to come up with an answer. And the answer I come up with, you have to listen to it, because if you don't listen to it, then I'm going to make you feel crazy. I'm going to make you anxious. I'm going to make you whatever. It tells us so many lies because it wants certainty. It wants to be in control. It wants to put you in a place where it knows where you're at. This is why it's so hard for people to make changes in their lives, because they're controlled by that. And in the Western world, that's what we're taught. That's like worshiping God, being as intellectual as possible. It's not about that. There's another type of intelligence, a deeply seated, rooted intelligence that is based on something beyond our senses, the physical senses, beyond what we can see, what we can touch, what we can smell, beyond that. It's a knowing. Sometimes we know that something's going to happen before it happens. We feel it. We feel it in our bones. We feel it in our bodies. We know someone is going to walk through that door. We know deep down that this relationship is not going to work. But our mind is playing tricks on us. And it's telling us, no, stay. No, you have to stay because otherwise we'll be lonely. Remember the last guy. Remember the last relationship. We listen to the clutter every time. There have been so many times you've been receiving messages from the spiritual realm, but you're not listening. You're not listening because you haven't been honoring yourself. You've been thinking that you're someone you're not. And it's been really painful. And you know living your life that way hasn't been working out for you. You may have a lot of money. You may have a family. You may travel the world. But you're still feeling that this is not it. It's not it. And I don't want to live in regret. I don't want to turn 70, 80, 90, whatever it may be, 100, 150 maybe. I don't know how long me and my clients are going to live. And say, I wish I would have done this. So, my question to you is, if you weren't obsessing so much with your thoughts, who would you be? If you weren't identifying with your intellect, who would you be? If you weren't only listening to the clutter in your mind, who would you be? If you weren't obsessing with your thoughts, what would you do? Boom. The lights went off. If you weren't worshiping your intellect as much as you are, what would you do? If you weren't controlled by your mind, what would you do? If you weren't obsessing with your thoughts, whom would you spend time with? If you weren't in control of your mind, controlled by your mind, whom would you spend time with? If you stopped believing that you're your intellect, whom would you spend time with? And what would you do? If you stopped obsessing with your thoughts, what kind of life would you lead? If you started training your intellect rather than being controlled by it, what kind of life would you lead? If you realize that you're not your mind and you're not your body, what kind of life would you lead?